What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and today we're going to discuss breathing and how breathing affects stress management, or how you can use breathing for stress management. Now, when we look at breathing, there's loads of different uses for it. You can use it for so many things, from stress management to recovery, relaxation, increasing your alertness. You can use it for temperature. Going into cold temperatures or hot temperatures. You can use it for focus, multiple different things. So in this episode, I want to focus specifically on stress management, but I'm going to give you an understanding around breathing, and you'll hopefully have a better understanding of how to apply it to different parts of your life also. So when we look at it, I want to first look at what is stress and what is stress management. Now, stress in itself has a bad name. It's kind of built up a bad name for itself over the last while, and it's probably too much of a bad name, so much so that people try to avoid it altogether. But stress is actually very, very good for you, and it helps your body adapt and get stronger once it's given time to recover. The real issue here is chronic stress, and chronic stress is obviously associated with so many issues like cardiovascular disease, stroke, cancer, depression, loads of comorbidities associated with chronic stress. So it does get that bad name because of it. Now, everything is a stressor, really. If you go training, you stress your body. You give it time and it recovers. If you try learn a new skill, like an instrument, you stress your brain, you give it time, it recovers, it gets better. Okay, so it is in small doses, or in small, medium, high doses, is good for you. But you need to look at recovery to get it right. Now, how does it work? Very simply, you look at your nervous system. Your nervous system is either in a fight or flight or a rest and digest. It works on like a dial, is how I describe it. So you have a tone. A parasympathetic tone is a rest and digest, and a sympathetic tone is a fight or flight. So the goal of stress management is to be able to effectively get in and out of a stress state from, let's say, your sympathetic tone down to a parasympathetic tone when you're relaxing and you're sleeping, and getting into a stress state when you need to. So when you're training or performing, when you come upon something that's a danger, you obviously want to have high alertness. You want to be using all the energy in your body to either get out of that situation, that fight or flight situation. But people mix that up, and they always think that, well, I need to avoid stressful states altogether. But really the goal of stress management is being able to manage your stress so that you can get into the state and get out of it when needed. Okay, and it's actually this idea of heart rate variability is a good, is linked to, let's say, your stress and your stress management. So if you have good heart rate variability that changes often, that shows that you're able to get in and out of a state. If you don't, if you have poor heart rate variability, and that's HRV for some people who may look at, let's say, a Garmin watch or a Fitbit. If you have poor HRV, that means that you aren't able to get in and out of these states very effectively or efficiently. Now, what happens when you're in a stress state is that the body starts to mobilize energy. So it takes all the energy, puts it into the bloodstream so you can get out of a situation, as I said. When you're in a rest and digest state, it uses that energy for healing and for recovery. So that's why it is important to be able to switch between the two. And it's determined by multiple factors. It's not as simple as you look at something and it goes through the roof. Well, if you look at a lion or a tiger, you can be sure that it's going to go through the roof. But there's other things as well that play on it. Emotional, physical, cognitive, spiritual, all these different issues in your environment will cause different things to become more or less of a stress. And it's your reaction to it as well that it has a huge impact on it. So the body or the brain doesn't differentiate between stressors, only level of stress. That's kind of the easiest way to say it. So your brain is obviously in a cave and it's just taking in what you see from the outside. So if you are perceiving something as a dangerous situation, your nervous system picks that up, ramps up the tone, or ramps you into a sympathetic tone. Your body starts to mobilize energy, and then because of that, you're alert, you have a lot of energy, and you can get out of a situation. On the other hand, if you're, let's say, dipping down for the evening, you turn on the lights, you're relaxing, you're going watching a movie, or you're going to bed, it turns it down because it doesn't need to be using that energy for getting out of a situation. And so instead, it uses it for healing. Okay, and the reason that it does this is that you don't, in general, need to heal while you're getting out of a situation. Okay, and you don't need loads of energy in your bloodstream when you're sitting back going to bed. Okay, you need it to be, it's one or the other. If you hurt your shoulder and you come upon a Pride Alliance, you want to get out of that situation. Okay, your shoulder can wait, because if you don't get out of that situation, you won't have a shoulder to care too much for. So that's why it flicks between the two of them. And it's your central nervous system that determines that level of alertness. As I said, heart rate increases, breathing rate increases, and energy use increases as well. So why is breathing an important aspect of stress management? Well, looking back on what I just touched on there, breathing directly affects your central nervous system, your breathing rate. If you want to do it quickly, start inhaling and exhaling really fast and increase your breathing rate. Your alertness will increase, your heart rate will increase, and you will you'll have a release of adrenaline, and you'll be more focused in a situation. At times, there's obviously you're not going to be more focused if you just increase your breathing rate and try to do a lot of study. It's going to have an effect on you. So there is finding a balance as well. But it's the only voluntary way that we can control our nervous system or our alertness is through our breathing, mechanical way, let's say, because you can obviously control your emotions and stuff like that as well. So when you inhale, your heart rate increases. Then when you exhale, your heart rate decreases. Okay? So if you're always stuck in a state that you're just at the edge of your breath, always inhaling, not exhaling for as long, your inhales are longer than your exhales, or you've more inhales than an exhale, that's going to increase your heart rate, which in turn is obviously going to increase your sympathetic activity, sympathetic tone, and put you into a more stressed state. Now, how does this happen? Well, think about it if you're angry, or if you're getting a fight with somebody. Now, it doesn't have to be a physical fight, it could be an emotional fight. Your alertness increases, you start to get red in the face, your breathing rate starts to get a lot faster, and obviously this can cause anxiety attacks for people, or panic attacks as well, because their breathing rate increases so much and they just go into this massive or very high alert state. So it can be a vicious cycle in that you don't realize it, that your breathing rate is increasing, and then on top of that, then your heart rate is increasing and your increased sympathetic tone. So if you do get caught in that cycle, well, then it's going to leave you in a stressed state all day. Now, if you get into the cycle of slowing your breathing rate down, getting into a relaxed and recovery state, it gives you time to recharge, and it gives you time to, I guess, reassess the situation and relax. And that's why, in one way, meditation is so effective. There's a lot of benefits of meditation, but meditation is so effective because a lot of times you're drawn to your breath, to focus on your breath, slow your breath down, extend the exhale, hold at either end. If you do that, then automatically it's going to start putting you into that more relaxed state. So that's why, in one way, meditation is so good for managing stress, because it helps you get from a sympathetic tone into a parasympathetic tone. The more you practice it, the better you get at it, the better you're able to move between the two during the day. Okay, so we need to look at that as well. The other thing about breathing is, as I was saying, it's a vicious cycle. If you breathe fast all the time, you always blow off your CO2. So your body never gets used to having high levels of CO2 in your body. So to do that, it's like a really, really, I guess, how would you say it? It becomes like a cycle that repeats itself, in that you blow off your CO2. Once you slow down your breath, your CO2 rises, okay, and then you have a poor tolerance to CO2, so you breathe fast again. So there's a lot of other levels to it, and it's not just specifically the tone that's affecting it. There is other levels as well, and I've talked about that in the breathing podcast. I kind of discussed a lot of different aspects of breathing. It's one of my first 5 podcasts, so I'd say go back and check that out. But with that, I just want you to take from this, why is it important in stress management? Because it can take us out and help us refocus. It can increase our heart rate, so increase our stress, the amount of stress that we are feeling, or alertness, and it can also drop our alertness. So that's why it's important. That's why it's so effective to use it. And all of my clients that I'm working with have all heard me say that we need to look at, like, especially ones who are dealing with stress, we need to just focus on taking a couple of minutes to slow down your breathing a few times throughout the day. And it just gets them better at doing the breathing. Okay, so that's why I do it with them. Now, how do you improve it? Or how do you improve your breathing, and how do you use it as a stress management tool? Well, the very first thing you have to do is you have to become more aware of it. Okay, more aware of your breath at different times. Without having an awareness of your breath, it's going to be difficult to change it. So what I would say is, in different situations, if you're rushed, notice your breath. If you're stuck in traffic and you're getting boiled up, you're getting angry, take note of it there. If it's time to go to lunch and it's finally you're taking a break from the work you're doing, take notice of your breath there. Okay, just become aware of it and how it changes in different situations throughout the day. If you can do that, then you will notice it picking up as things get stressful. You'll notice that your breathing rate increases, and you can nip it in the bud. So you can stop it, and you can go back to extending the exhale, go back to relaxing yourself, and just going back to putting yourself in, I guess, a more manageable state. If you're not aware of it, that can creep up, and it can increase throughout the day. So like if you wake up late on your alarm and you gasp, oh, Jesus, I'm late, and you start running around the kitchen, getting stuff done, trying to get yourself ready and run out the door to work, well, that's going to put you into a stress state, and it's going to increase your breathing rate as well. And if that happens to you early in the morning, that can persist throughout the day. So if you catch it and you're more aware of it, you can take your 3 to 4 minutes to 5 minutes and just chill and just practice slowing your breath down. It might be that you go into the bathroom, you sit down and you just slow your breath down and you relax. But if you aren't aware of that, if you aren't aware of what it's like, well, it's going to be very difficult to do that. So that's why I say the most important thing is you first have to become aware of your breath at different times, and then become aware of how different situations affect you, and you can actually start to make change. Now, how do you make that change? What I would say is practice first breathing, slowing your breath down, taking your breath into a parasympathetic state. How do you do that? Well, a very simple tip is just extend your exhales. And what I mean by that is, instead of breathing out for 2 seconds, look to breathe out for 5 to 8 seconds. Hold at the end for 2 to 3 seconds. Inhale, nice relaxed inhale through the nose, and then hold again for 2 to 3 seconds. If you do that, then you'll notice very quickly that you start to get into a more relaxed state, a more focused state a lot of times, and a lot more present. But if you want to, you can also try the opposite. Speed up your breathing. Okay, I want you to inhale and exhale really fast, no hold at either end. You're going to get dizzy after a while because you're going to blow off all the CO2 and you can pass out, so don't go crazy. But just do it for a couple of seconds and see how that affects you. The other side of this is that it trains you to be able to get into that state and out of that state. And that's what we're looking at here for stress management. We're not just looking to get out of it. We want to be able to effectively get into the state when we need to. Okay, and we want to effectively get out of the state when we need to. And being able to go between the two is a huge tool to have in your arsenal. Because when you need it, you can use it. When you want to relax yourself, you can relax. When you want to get energy and get into a workout or go into a training session, you can use it there as well. or if you're feeling tired in the morning, you can use it before going into a meeting or whatever it is. But you need to practice that to get better at it. And the more you practice, the better you get at it, obviously. What a very simple tip of what I say to people is that when they measured the Amazonian tribes, people, uncontacted tribes, they measured their breathing rate. These people obviously don't eat very acidic foods, and that's something that I should have touched on at the start, is that if you are eating a lot of acidic foods, if you're eating a lot of processed foods, that's going to cause your breathing rate to increase, because obviously there's more acid in your system. Okay, and CO2 is an acid, so you're going to blow that off, which obviously you will increase your breathing rate to blow that off, which in turn will cause you to get into slightly more stress state. So that's why when you go to the hospitals, now they say your breathing rate should be between 12 and 22 breaths per minute. That is that's crazy when I think about it, because when they done research on the Amazonian tribes and when they did research on uncontacted tribes, they found that they were breathing under an average of 8 breaths per minute. So there's huge difference there. Nearly 3 times the amount at 22 breaths per minute. And that's considered normal in Western world. So really you should be looking to get under 8 breaths per minute as many times throughout the day as you can. It's just a very good way of taking you into a parasympathetic state. They also found that that level is the border of the parasympathetic state, that 8 breaths per minute. So look at what we have come from originally. Obviously look at your diet and all that as well, because that needs to be taken into account. If you've tight scheduled, if you're stressed throughout the day, if you're running from one thing to the next, that's going to cause you to get into a stress state. But what can you do yourself? Obviously, you have to look at changing your lifestyle to suit it more. But just by slowing your breath down, you can also get similar effects. So under 8 breaths. If you're fit, I would say under 6 breaths per minute. Now, what other people do, if you're looking for a more, an easy to follow system or easy to follow technique, would be box breathing. Now, box breathing is a 5-second inhale, it's a 5-second hold, it's a 5-second exhale, and it's a 5-second hold. Okay, and it automatically brings you under that 8 breaths per minute as well. So, nice, easy technique. If you just don't know what to do, that's a very simple one to follow. The holds are as important as the actual breathing itself, so don't forget those. Definitely don't forget those. What I'd also say is look into different breathing forms for yourself. Different ones are going to work for different people, and you're going to enjoy other ones, especially if you research it yourself. You're going to be more invested in it because you spent more time figuring it out. So box breathing and breathing under 8 breaths per minute are 2 effective ways. But looking at like rhythmic breathing patterns, where you're going to say like box breathing is a rhythmic breathing pattern. You could also go 8 seconds, 4 seconds, 8 seconds, 4 seconds. Keep that done, or do that consistently. How long should you do it for? Like I always say to people to start with 2 minutes, but when you do it for 2 minutes, you're most likely going to do it for that bit longer. 2 and 5 minutes, between 2 and 5 minutes is a perfect marker now. You can go for longer if you want to, but they are an excellent way, or an excellent a starting point for people. But experiment with other ways. There is Wim Hof breathing, holotropic breathing. They are similar or the same. You have Buteyko breathing, and that talks a lot about, if you want to look up it, there's an excellent book, The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McKeown. As I said, there's rhythmic breathing, there's non-rhythmic breathing, there's breathing for focus, there's breathing for alertness, there's breathing for learning. So just experiment, look into different ones, try them out and see what works best for you. But for now, I want to just leave you with, how many times in the day can you take your breathing rate back below 8 breaths per minute? Can you do it every hour on the hour? Could you do it every half an hour? Even if you were only doing it for 2 minutes at a time. It's the ability of being able to get into that state that we need to practice and get out of that state. That's the goal. And if you can do that, you're setting yourself up for a lot of success. So guys, that and girls, that is everything that I want to discuss today. I just wanted to kind of give you a quick run over of different breathing methods, why breathing relates to stress management and how it can be used as a stress management tool. There's loads more on this as well. I would say check out that original podcast that I've done on breathing. I go into a lot more detail. It's podcast number, I think it's 4. Yeah, it's between 3 and 5 anyway, I think. And I just talk about it, or I go into a lot more detail on how different ones affect you and into the science behind it as well. But I hope that you were able to take away from that, and I hope that you have a better understanding now of what you need to be working on and what you need to be including. And it's definitely a good one for athletes and non-athletes, people who are active people, because you can use it as a recovery tool as well. Remember, stress is a fight or flight state. A rest and digest state is more of a recovery state. So you can use those same principles and apply them to like getting into a recovery state. If anyone is struggling with a long-term injury, or if you're getting back to sport and you need help with either getting over the injury or just getting yourself into prime condition, perfect condition to get back into your sport, or let's say you have a marathon planned, or you want to do an ultra, or you want to climb a mountain, and you always have the same issues that kick up and flare up, and you don't know how to do it, and you don't know how to manage them, well then get in contact, because I deal with active people who are in sport or out of sport and trying to get back into it, who are dealing with long-term issues and injuries. So that's, if that's you, whether it's back pain, knee pain, hip pain, ankle, shoulder, it doesn't matter. Just send me a message or send me an email at mobilitytutor.com, and we can jump on a quick call and we can discuss it in a bit more detail, see how it is. If you're having any issues, or if we are a good fit for each other, then we can definitely go forward with it and get that set up. If not, there's no problem. What you can also do is if you go onto my page on Instagram, which is Mobility Tutor, you can click the button in my bio and it'll bring you straight to a form, and then that way that form will go into a lot more detail on what we need to talk about. Send that through, I'll get it in an email, and then I'll send you a message to set up the call. Other than that, guys, I would love if you enjoyed this podcast, if you could share it on your story on Instagram. It gets the name out there, it gives a lot more exposure, and it lets me know what episodes you want me to focus on a small bit more, what topics you want me to focus on a small bit more. Other than that, if you can subscribe on iTunes and Spotify, I would love if you could leave a comment and a rating on iTunes. It goes a long way in promoting the podcast. And also, if there's anyone that you'd like me to get on the podcast, definitely let me know as well. Send me a message on Instagram or send me an email. But yeah, that is everything from me today, guys and girls. So I hope everyone is well and healthy, and have a good one.